All right, yeah, good morning. This is Jeff Orrock here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield. Kind of a special Friday briefing going into the holiday weekend. So we're going to be really focused on the weather from really Friday here through the weekend and into Monday. I'm not going to talk too much about next week, so we're just going to kind of focus on what's happening here for a little while. As far as what's been happening here on Friday for today, there's been not much precipitation, had some good rainfall overnight and yesterday afternoon, but not a lot going on right now except across maybe, northern Virginia, north of 64, way north of 64. And then some more showers developing here, actually, close to Carl Lake and Lake Gaston, a little west of there. And that's kind of lifted northeast. So that might sneak up into the Piedmont, might even sneak up a little bit into Richmond here. We'll see how that goes. But for the most part, the rest of us are fairly dry across the region, and that's probably going to be just some hit and miss showers today. Not expecting a whole lot, and then maybe some more chances, obviously, as the weekend goes on. So we'll see how that goes. Just kind of looking at the observations here, across the whole region. The main thing you notice is a lot of northeast wind. The fronts come through, a lot of northeast wind. Temperatures really pretty much, right around the upper 50s to low 60s. Getting some decent winds as you get close to the bay and the waters here. I mean, gust up to 25, even 30 miles per hour. Here near the water. And that's going to kind of really persist, through today, along with the cloud cover. So not going to see much of a difference here. This northeast to east wind is going to persist, into the weekend, at least through Saturday, which will keep things, fairly cool for the most part. Winds may become more southerly later this weekend, which might give us some warmer temperatures as that front lifts back north as a warm front. So we'll see how that goes. But just a nice cloudy, cool day today, maybe with some light little showers, here and there. So we'll kind of just get right into it. Skip that slide. Let's go to this one here. So this was the rainfall from actually yesterday and last night. So it was definitely the haves and the haves nots. So this is as of Friday morning, looking at the 24-hour precipitation. So everything in the dark blue, had about a quarter inch of rain. And by the time you get into the greens, a half inch of rain or more. And then we did have some bullseyes around the area, with some decent rainfall totals. Even here north of Richmond, south of Fredericksburg, you're talking about, maybe, anywhere from an inch to 2 inches of rain up there. So it was convectively driven, as far as the bullseyes were concerned. And this may be kind of the way things go off and on for the weekend, where some folks get more rain than others. Some folks get just a little bit. Some folks get a little bit more. So we'll kind of just see how that goes. But definitely the haves and the have-nots from yesterday. And really, the further east you go, the much less precipitation we experienced, and especially down here towards the Albemarle, where they really didn't get much at all. Just looking at the fronts for the next few days. Basically, this front is to our south and just stalled out. It's going to sit there for a little while. On Saturday, you see here in this second image, it's going to be kind of lifting north a teeny bit and maybe kind of stalled out there over southeast Virginia, with the rain kind of along and north of that front is our best probabilities. By the time you get into Sunday, you notice it's kind of pushed back north as a warm front over a lot of the area. Now, places like Richmond and the Piedmont may still be a little bit wedged into some cooler air, where locations to the east, that southerly flow is going to kick in. And we may have more of a little bit of a south wind over a lot of our area, with a little bit maybe still lingering north wind, back once you get, I'd say, Richmond west. So a little bit of that wedge trying to hold in on Sunday. So Sunday could be kind of a mixed day as far as temperatures are concerned. By the time you get to Monday, the front's gone back all the way to the north to northern Virginia. But then by Tuesday, it might start to drop back down. So it's the problem is we just got this front kind of sitting here parked across this. It's going to make the forecast a little bit messy. It's not like it's a washout, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's just going to be, unsettled with some periods of showers and a little bit of a breeze. So that's kind of what's going on. As far as the risk of severe weather, today, Saturday, Sunday, and even into Monday, there is no risk of severe storms. There's just a chance that we could see a thunderstorm or two here and there. Today, I'm not really concerned about it. The Storm Prediction Center is showing maybe a low probability here over northeast North Carolina, but that's very doubtful. We just don't have a lot of instability. Tomorrow, there could actually be a rumble of thunder or two. And that could even bleed this over into all of northeast North Carolina if I was looking at this, and maybe a little bit into southeast Virginia. Just it's going to depend upon where that front sets up tomorrow. And if that front is actually stalled out kind of across Hampton Roads, and then back towards Wakefield and South Hill, we could see a rumble of thunder. But once you get north of that, Richmond area, up over a lot of the eastern shore. I don't think the front's going to get up there to give you any kind of a chance of thunder. By the time you get to Sunday, you do see a little bit more of the area there with a chance of thunder, and that could actually shift a little bit north. Remember that front was actually way up here over northern Virginia come Sunday. So we'll see. There could be a stray little thunderstorm here or there. We'll kind of walk through those probabilities. And Monday, same thing, could be a stray thunderstorm here or there, but nothing severe, just maybe a thunderstorm. So we're going to break it down day by day. And so this is looking at the rainfall for today. And you're not seeing a whole lot right now, especially in the middle part of our area here, from Norfolk back to Wakefield, Williamsburg. That's kind of going to be the minimum. We do have better chances, once you get west of South Hill up to Farmville, even up towards Richmond here, and getting into the Piedmont and into Maryland. And the reason for that was, if you remember, we had that little area of showers that was developing here west of Carr Lake, and that might actually skirt its way up through here. And that's why we do have a little bit higher rainfall totals for today, mainly in the west and the northern parts of our area, because that looks like the way that those showers and storms are going to go. Near the front, right along the Albemarle Sound, we'll see if we can get some stuff to develop. We might see some more showers down here. But for the most part, most of us really aren't going to see much precipitation at all today outside of those areas. And you kind of see those chances here, as far as what the chances for rain throughout the day. And again, I didn't put thunder in here because I really don't think we're going to see any really chance of thunder today. Looking at it for tomorrow, now what you see is a little bit more rainfall totals across the area. The green is the chance of rainfall, and then the yellows are the chance of thunderstorms. And so you do start to see now some chances of thunderstorms popping up here at our briefing. You can go back and look at this in a little bit more detail. But again, because that front's lifting a little bit further north, better chance for rainfall across southeast Virginia and really across the entire area. Everybody's got a pretty good chance. It won't be a washout, but it may be some off and on showers and maybe even a rumble of thunder. Again, you see the probabilities here for thunder still pretty low, anywhere from like 20 to maybe 40% chance of a thunderstorm, depending on where you are. So it's comparing the chance of rainfall to the chance of actual seeing a thunderstorm. So kind of a neat way to look at that. But there is a low probability for a little bit of thunder on Saturday. Moving into Sunday, the main thing you'll notice here is the rainfall totals again aren't really high, but there could be some scattered showers and storms around. And again, now it's a little bit more focused maybe into southeast Virginia, south central Virginia, northeast North Carolina has a little bit higher rainfall totals potentially than, let's say, once you get Richmond north. And if you look at the chances of rain and the chances of thunder, you do see a little bit better chances of thunderstorms in some locations here on Sunday. So something we'll keep an eye on. It's like about a 80 to 90% chance of rain, but then the chance of thunderstorms is about 40 to 50% in some locations. So again, that's mainly going to be kind of along that front. And you'll notice a lot of our southern cities are the ones that have the better chance for thunderstorms, where other places like Louisa up here, they only have a 25% chance of thunderstorms. So the further south you are, the better chance you're going to have of thunderstorms. I'm going to go ahead and kind of move this through time here so you can kind of see this is the chance of seeing a 1/4 inch of rain every 6 hours. So what you're seeing here is, in a 6 hour period, where might we see some of the heavier rainfall? Maybe a 1/4 inch of rain that falls in a 6 hour time frame. And so you really see here through this afternoon, mainly going to be north of Richmond. And if I move it to 8 o'clock, mainly going to be north and west of Richmond. Let me back it up into here to this morning. So you can kind of just see that the rain that's expected to move through, that's coming through now, expected to kind of remain to the north. Not going to get south of Richmond much, maybe not even get much into southeast Virginia or northeast North Carolina. Getting into overnight tonight, you don't really see much going on. You see more rain to the west here. That's moving in. Let's go ahead and jump ahead. This is Saturday afternoon by around 2 o'clock. So this is rainfall that's falling, in the morning up until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. And again, you see the best chance of precipitation really being, basically Richmond down towards Danville and north, and of course across the Maryland Eastern Shore, but not nearly, really don't have much of a probability of a 1/4 inch of rain or more over a lot of central and southeast Virginia as well as North Carolina. Kind of continuing to kind of step this through it in time. Saturday afternoon, ending about 8 o'clock in the afternoon, you kind of see some low chances pretty much everywhere of at least maybe a quarter inch of rain, maybe a little bit higher chances now over southeast Virginia. So precipitation in the afternoon on Saturday could start inland and then kind of push its way towards the coast in the afternoon. So that's kind of what this is suggesting here. So you get some precipitation pushing over northern Virginia, and that stuff that was inland to the west over here through 2 o'clock may actually shift more towards the coast a little bit as we get into Saturday afternoon. As we get to Saturday overnight, again, rainfall kind of continues mostly inland, and really kind of just the probabilities kind of decrease for a quarter inch of rain overnight. And we get into Sunday. This is Sunday morning, so it looks like if we are going to see rain Sunday morning, it does look like there's a better probability of seeing that more, heavier rain, quarter inch or more, really in the east, southeast Virginia, maybe parts of the Maryland Eastern Shore. It's going to be a 95 east. Now, when you move into Sunday afternoon, you start to see it light up a little bit more, especially from Richmond south and east. So this is where we might see that front's going to be sitting. And Sunday, we might start to see those showers and storms developing a little more, prolifically, I'd say, south of Richmond and down towards Hampton Roads and northeast North Carolina. So this would be Sunday afternoon, that chance of seeing a quarter inch of rain through 8 p.m. And then when you get into Saturday evening, it kind of breaks up and kind of moving on ahead into the holiday. This is Monday morning. Right now, the probabilities are not showing much heavy rain as far as a quarter inch of rain is concerned. But when you look at the afternoon on Monday, we'll have to see how this goes. It does look like it could be a little bit wet. Pretty high probabilities here of getting that quarter inch or more of rainfall Monday afternoon. So we'll see how that goes, especially, again, kind of south and southeast of Richmond kind of seems to be the focus as that front maybe tries to drop back south again. So we'll see how that goes. Could be some thunderstorms in there too from Monday. So very unsettled. The bottom line here, when I went through this, it's maybe not a complete washout of just rain all the time, but it could be an occasional wave of showers and maybe even a rumble of thunder throughout the whole weekend. And so you look at the rainfall through Sunday night here on the left. You can see pretty much on average everybody's getting a half inch or more. You look here on the right, getting into basically through Thursday night. And this gets us into Sunday night into Monday, and then later on next week, you do see how it's more focused over southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina as you get later in the weekend and into the early part of next week, where up until then, it's kind of a little bit of everywhere. Sometimes it's a little more inland, sometimes it's a little more towards the coast. It's just the rain's going to kind of move around over the next couple of days, depending on where the front is and where the focus is. And this is actually our rainfall totals for the next 7 days. We may not quite hit this average, but it's just kind of giving you a good idea of how much rainfall we might see. So hopefully most folks around the region do get close to an inch. Some people might not, but hopefully we do get an average of an inch of rain would be great, especially if we can start to see some areas of over an inch of rain would be great. I mean, the drought's pretty bad, so hopefully this will at least, it's not going to put a dent in it, but at least it'll get the ground wet. As far as temperatures go, that's all I kind of focus on here. We're cool today because of that front. Tomorrow's kind of that mixed bag of temperatures depending on where the front is. So, areas like Louisa to the northwest, even Farmville stay in the 60s. But then further south, like Elizabeth City, Edenton, you even get down here towards Suffolk. I mean, maybe getting up to 80 tomorrow because that front comes back to the north and they get on the warm side of the front. So a little bit of a mixed bag with temperatures tomorrow, and really kind of cooler once you get over the Piedmont. I say Richmond and points west and north may stay a little bit cooler. But by the time you get into Sunday, that front should be should be north of everybody, and everybody's in the 70s and 80s. And even here on Monday, cloudy, mix of, maybe a peak of sun, but for the most part, cloudy, but temperatures, still in the 70s and to the low to mid 80s. So we're going to be in pretty good shape there. You see temperatures kind of hover in the 70s and low 80s even into next week. Now, one thing we're going to run into with this east wind are going to be rip currents. And right now, really honestly, the beaches are just rough because we have that northeast wind right now gusting to 25 to 30 miles an hour. So you got, 5-6 foot breakers out there. The beaches are just rough. There's rip currents, but the surf conditions just kind of bad. Wind stays out of the east even into tomorrow, and that's why we're going to have a high risk for all the beaches there on Saturday with that east wind just pushing those waves right into the beach. Continued rough surf, continued high risk of rip currents. Sunday we'll see what happens. The winds do become a little bit more southeast and south on Sunday, so we're definitely going to maintain a high rip current risk across Assateague and Ocean City. Down south, we might get down into a little bit lower threat, into a moderate threat. We'll see. It's going to be dependent upon how fast those winds turn to the south and southeast and how those waves behave. So, Sunday's still going to be a day we're going to have to watch out for the surf with moderate to high rip currents. Even into Monday, Monday will probably be at least moderate everywhere because the seas are still going to be kicked up. And with those kicked up seas, we get the waves at the beach. So going to be a little bit of rough weekend, not really probably a great weekend to go swimming at the beach. Just looking ahead, with this cloud cover, temperatures are going to be around normal. Even going out in the 10 days in the future. And really, as far as the chances of precipitation, maybe normal to slightly above normal rainfall. But again, not enough to really put a dent in the drought. What I want to do now is go ahead and just shift gears, and we'll switch over to the marine part of the forecast here. And so what I will highlight here, just kind of jumping ahead, is that the area that you see in orange here, small craft advisory conditions pretty much everywhere. The area in red here represents where we could see some gale force gusts or even waves of about 8 feet or so. And so here offshore. So that's why you're seeing the red offshore. It's the wind gusts are going to be getting close to 30 knots, and the waves are going to be running around 8 feet or so. So that's the area you see here in red. But the rest of us are all in really solid small craft advisory conditions. For Saturday, that kind of continues into Saturday with that east wind. Maybe the winds decrease a little bit here on the bay, but maybe still getting gusts to 20 knots or so. Sunday, mostly small craft advisory conditions offshore. That kind of continues into Monday a little bit, mostly depending on the waves. But the conditions do gradually improve, you see here, in time as the wind becomes more southerly and the winds also decrease. I did throw this in here. This is kind of look at the probability of the winds. So this is your small craft advisory conditions for today. So I've got some probabilities here on the bay, really high probabilities along the coast as far as small craft advisory conditions. Probability of gale force winds is very, very low. If you notice, it's really limited up here off of Fenwick Island and really places north of there. So we're still going to get some good seas out of this because of the northeast flow, but the winds aren't going to be super strong. Still going to be 20, 25 knots, but they're not going to be gale force winds. It's just going to be kicking up the seas. So kind of looking at those winds and breaking it down in the bay and near shore, see that northeast wind today, pretty much solidly about gusts to 25 knots. But those winds do decrease tomorrow. They become more easterly. I'd say at around maybe, they start out around 20 knots and become easterly around 15 knots as we get through the afternoon. But with that east flow, you're still going to have those waves bumped up. Sunday, the winds do let up a little bit, start to come around more out of the south. And so maybe that'll help the sea state some. And the winds do get lighter. And then the southwest winds increase here a little bit. If you notice, southwest about 15 knots or so on Monday. So the wind direction does change on us. But this onshore fetch here today and tomorrow is going to really bump up that surf. And we'll see how fast the waves start to decrease there on Sunday. Offshore, much of the same, a much stronger wind further offshore, getting gusts more to about 30 knots with that northeast flow. That does continue into tomorrow, even into parts of tomorrow afternoon. The winds become east, anywhere from 15 to 25 knot gusts, depending on where you are. But eventually the winds do become south offshore at about 15 knots and then southwest. So the winds do kind of maintain themselves around 15 knots offshore, but they go from east tomorrow to south on Sunday, and then maybe a little bit southwest on Monday. And then looking into Monday and parts of next week, the winds are fairly light as we get past Monday. So, strongest wind really is today and tomorrow with a slight decrease on Sunday. Monday is pretty persistent with Sunday, and then maybe a little bit of a decrease Tuesday and Wednesday with the winds coming down a little bit. Wave heights about 4 feet on the bay with this northeast wind, about 5 to 7 feet off along the coast. Pushing offshore, pretty much solid 5 to 7 feet with 7 to 10 here once you get offshore of Chincoteague and offshore of Ocean City, getting out there probably about 8 to 10 foot seas as you get further out offshore. And just kind of looking at the different wave heights here. This is your significant wave height versus your occasional wave height, where you're going to see some max waves offshore of getting up to about 9 to 12 feet. So on average, you're going to be maybe around, let's say 5 to 8, but you're going to have 9 to 12 footers out there way offshore with that northeast and east winds. That was today. Tomorrow is much the same. The waves do decrease on the bay because the wind decreases, but offshore stays very rough really the entire weekend. This is now getting into Sunday. So you can see in the bay, conditions may improve, maybe even a little bit near shore, but really the ocean's going to stay pretty kicked up, honestly, through the entire holiday weekend. Just looking at the wave energy here at the buoy, kind of near Chesapeake Light. The bottom line here is you got all these different colors here in the middle represent different wave energies. So you have a northeast wind wave here running about anywhere from 3 upwards to about 5 feet. So that's the waves coming out of the northeast. But then you also have a southeast swell that's running at 2 to 3 feet. So you have some wave energy that's kind of conflicting out there a little bit, making things a little chaotic. And you'll notice these two blue lines, they persist, all the way up until the 25th. So that's getting several days out. The seas do finally decrease later on. We talked about that, especially as you get into parts of next week. You see those seas coming down. But really for a little bit of this weekend, it's going to be a little bit bumped up out there, and the waves are going to be a little bit chaotic. So not going to be a great time to be heading offshore on the holiday weekend. And with that, as a reminder, it's Safe Boating Week. Check that out if folks are going out offshore or anywhere in the bay. Some great safety information there. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop the briefing.